everyone! I have a new card for you guys today. Today's card is going to be a Valentine's Day card. Here's my card sketch. For today's card, I'm going to keep it pretty simple. Use a couple pieces of pattern paper, a stamp for the sentiment, and I'm going to make a heart out of buttons. So it should be pretty cute, and let's go ahead and get started. So I already cut my pieces of paper. I'm going to use a piece of craft cardstock for the base, regular standard size card, 4 1/4 by 5 1/2. I also have a couple of pieces of pattern paper from Basic Gray. It's from their porcelain collection. So as you can see, this one is 3 1/2 by 3 1/2, and this piece here is a 1/2 inch by 3 1/2, and it's going to fit perfectly underneath. And then what I did is I cut out a heart that I just drew on a piece of paper, and I put some repositionable adhesive behind it. And this is going to be my template for my buttons, and I'm going to create a cute heart out of buttons. So to get started, I'm going to use a couple of different techniques. First thing I'm going to do is mist this piece of paper, this scallop, with some Perfect Pearl Mists by Ranger. This one is just a plain iridescent pearl. There's no color to it, so it'll just add a little bit of shimmer. So I'll go ahead and shake that up. And what I do is I have a box, and I put my paper inside the box, and I spray it in there. So you can just test off the spray in a corner, and then give it a few good spritzes. And then I'm actually going to leave it in the box to let it dry. Okay, for this piece, this is going to be the center. It's going to go right here, and the scallops underneath it, and the sentiment. And this is where I'm going to want to put my buttons. So I actually have removable adhesive already on it, and I'm going to line it up in the center. Now, I don't want this white piece of paper here, but I need some kind of a template to line up the buttons on, otherwise the heart ends up looking kind of wonky. So having a template underneath is really helpful. So what I'm going to do, so that I don't have to have the white background behind, is I'm actually going to do some distressing. So I have my distress ink here and my applicator, and I'm just going to ink it up and do some light distressing around this heart so that it has darker color and a lighter color, and inside the lighter color is where I'm going to put my buttons. It doesn't have to be super strong, as long as you can pull back the heart and see where you were inking. Okay, so now I'm just going to pull back a corner or a side to see if I like the way it looks. And I do, so I can go ahead and peel off my little stencil, and it's left there just a faint impression of a heart. So now I know where to put my buttons, and I don't have a stark white background behind it. I'm also going to ink up the edges while I'm at it. Okay, so that completes the inking. Next we can go ahead and do... Actually, I'll adhere this down to the card first, because once I get the buttons on there, well, maybe I'll pop it up. Okay, so I'm going to do the buttons first. So I'll get my pink buttons out here. And doing this really is kind of a trial and error process. I'm just going to apply some removable adhesive and stick this down to my mat for while I'm putting the buttons on. And really just take the buttons and throw them on, see how it looks. It's pretty fun. Okay, so that's how I want my buttons, so I'll just clean up the rest of these. And then it's just gluing them on. What I'm actually going to do, I have some embroidery floss here, and I think I'm going to tie some knots in some of the buttons. That is, if my thread isn't in a knot already. Okay, so I got my thread ready to go. And I think I'll tie it in just a couple of them, like maybe the darker ones, one over here and down there. So I have also mini glue dots, which is what I'm going to use to adhere them down. And I'll start adhering them, except for the ones that I'm going to tie buttons on, ribbon onto. String. Goodness. Word retrieval issues. So just stick a mini glue dot on the back, and stick it down to your page. Okay, so now I'm going to tie some string through some of them. I'll just go down one end and up the other. Tie a cute little bow and snip off the strings. Super cute. Okay, so that was the most labor-intensive part of our card, Next is really just putting it together, stamping the sentiment, and that's it. So now I'm going to come back to that piece of paper that I misted. It should be all dry. Pick it up out of the box here. And if the camera will pick it up nicely, you can see that when the light hits it just right, it has a really nice pearlescent sheen. It's beautiful, but it still lets the pattern come through, and since it's not colored, it's not changing the color of the pattern, so it adds just a nice little extra element. So I'm going to take off my removable adhesive, and the scallop is going to go right underneath, just like that. Cute! I'm actually going to use some score tape for this. I'm going to put it in the back of this card. Line everything up. And here, the scallop border. Cute. Okay, so this is just going to go straight on the card right there. I'm actually going to use some foam adhesive, some dimensional adhesive. I hadn't planned on it, but I think it'll be cute. A card like this with all the buttons, though, is going to be super thick, so I do not recommend sending it through the regular mail. Or if you do, use one of those super padded envelopes, just so it doesn't get smushed. Okay, then this is just going to go on the front of the card. Just like that. And then for the sentiment for this card, I wanted to keep it simple because I wanted to give the buttons kind of front and center attention. So I have this card, this stamp, sorry, from Michaels, it's the Studio G, but I only want to stamp it once. So I'm going to mask off my stamp with some Scotch tape. So that I only get the I love you that one time. And I'm gonna just test my stamp on some scrap paper here. And I'm not gonna pull off the tape for the test run because I know that it won't be there for the other time. I just want to make sure it's gonna look okay. Okay. So then I'm gonna go ahead and ink up my stamp, nice and good. and then pull off all of this tape. And then the only stamp I'm going to get is that one right there. So I'll line it up, give a nice firm impression, and straight up. Okay, so that's basically the card. I think the last thing I'm going to do just to finish it up is do a little white stitching, or some faux stitching with a white gel pen. I think I'm going to do it just right around the card here. What I might do, so this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to take a ruler and a pencil and draw some guidelines for myself. I'm going to extend this box. So this box is a little less than half an inch from the bottom, so I'm going to draw myself a line here. And then extend these lines down. And then I can extend the stitching all the way down across the card. And then do my stitching. Okay, and then once that's dry, I'll erase the lines. And the card is finished. Hope you enjoyed!